For what purpose does the delegate from Arlington, Delegate McClure, rise?
Mr. Speaker, I rise to speak to the veto.
The delegate has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this session we heard directly from tenants about the horrendous conditions that many of our neighbors are living in, from broken windows to leaking pipes to black mold. We heard awful stories about cockroach infestations, bed bugs, rat feces, and children being bitten by rodents. Our laws do not allow such conditions, and yet many Virginia families put up with these subhuman living conditions and harassment from their landlord simply out of the fear that they will lose their housing if they speak up. When a tenant seeks protection of our laws and the landlord responds by evicting the tenant or raising their rent only, we need to call it what it is: revenge. Such revenge and retaliation not only serves to punish the tenant who attempted to assert their essential housing rights, but also sends a warning to others who might dare be so bold. Critically, it also ensures that none of the problems get solved and that unjust living conditions continue and those issues only continue to pile up and worsen. Despite provisions in our law aimed at deterring such revenge, bad landlords continue to act with impunity. They know that under existing code, tenants rarely, if ever, succeed in bringing retaliation claims. They are relying on the silence from their tenants, silence from families, and silence from elected officials. I am proud to have collaborated closely with tenant advocates and landlords and housing providers on HB 817. It adds a much-needed protection for tenants against some of the worst landlord behavior while also providing important safeguards for landlords. We in this chamber heard the call that renters have long been making, asking us to take seriously their complaints about housing discrimination, harassment, and unsafe living conditions. Together, the House and the Senate passed HB 817 on a bipartisan basis. Unfortunately, the governor ignored the combined efforts of all the stakeholders and the needs of our communities when he vetoed HB 817 to protect landlords who engage in retaliatory behaviors where they intimidate and harass vulnerable tenants. The veto also does a disservice to the responsible landlords in our communities, folks who respond to tenant needs and do not rely on fear to maintain silence. I know that the governor and his team apparently did not have time to analyze the bill. So I call on the governor to listen to the needs of our families and protect the folks who he has claimed to serve, and respect the responsibility that we have as public servants to protect the rights of even our most vulnerable constituents. I remain committed to working with my colleagues to ensure that every person in our great Commonwealth has access to safe, affordable housing free from retaliation. Tenants cannot continue to be harassed and silenced. Just as I did this legislative session, I intend on bringing all stakeholders back to the table: tenants, housing providers, landlords, and advocates, to ensure that the rights of tenants and housing providers are respected and that bad actors are held accountable. We all recognize that retaliation has no place in Virginia. So we will continue moving forward to find a solution that upholds the rights of tenants and promotes fairness in our housing system. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Continuing in the category of House bills vetoed by the governor, page 35, the printed calendar, House